There is a sacred illusion that has governed the human mind for thousands of years, an illusion that God is somewhere else out there, above the clouds, hidden in holy books, locked behind rituals, or found only in the presence of saints and prophets. We were taught to look up, to kneel down, to chase something grand and far away. But what if the greatest secret of all, the secret whispered in every ancient text, the truth behind every miracle, is that God has never been outside of you? Not for a single breath, not for a single heartbeat. God is not above you. God is not around you. God is not hiding in a temple or buried in the sand. God is not an entity floating in the heavens, counting your sins or judging your failures. God is not a being. God is a presence, a vibration, a frequency, an energy. And that energy lives inside of you. It pulses in your chest, not just as a heartbeat, but as a rhythm of cosmic intelligence. It rises with the sun through your thoughts. It flows with your breath as inspiration. It sings in your silence and whispers in your intuition. It is the light behind your eyes, the warmth behind your love, the stillness behind your peace. You don't have to go anywhere to find it. You only have to remember, you have never been separate. You've only believed that you were. We were born into a world that confused form with truth. We were told we were bodies. We were told we were names, histories, roles, genders, religions, nationalities. We were given identities to wear like masks in a theater. But behind every mask is the same light, the same essence, the same eternal current of being that has no label, no boundary, no limitation. You are not a body with a soul. You are a soul having a brief, sacred, passing experience in a body. And that soul, your soul, is not disconnected from God. It is God. Not the entirety, but the expression, the drop that contains the whole ocean, the flame that reveals the nature of fire. You are the divine, individualized. And if that is true, and it is, then everything about your life begins to change. Because no longer do you search for peace outside of yourself. You no longer chase love from others like a beggar. You no longer strive to be good enough, holy enough, worthy enough. You realize that you already are. Because how can that which is divine be unworthy? Your worth is not negotiable. It is not determined by your past. It is not reduced by your mistakes. You are not here to earn divinity. You are here to express it, to remember it, to embody it. When Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you, he wasn't being poetic. He was describing a metaphysical reality, that the infinite lives in the finite, that the source is not out of reach, that the door to heaven swings open inward. The great mystics of every age have known this. Rumi wrote, "I searched for God and found only myself. I searched for myself and found only God." Lao Tzu said, "Knowing others is wisdom, knowing yourself is enlightenment." The Upanishads tell us, you are that. The Bhagavad Gita echoes, the self is the friend of the self. Even science, if you look closely, is beginning to whisper this truth, that consciousness is not an accident, but the ground of all being. And so the invitation of your life is not to find God. It is to remove everything that blocks your awareness of God within you. The ego is the veil. The past is the noise. The story is the distraction. But the truth has always been here, still, silent, waiting. Like the sun behind the clouds, it doesn't argue, it doesn't force, it doesn't punish. It simply waits for your willingness to remember who you really are. And who are you? You are not your name. You are not your job. You are not your resume. You are not your trauma. You are not your bank account. You are not your followers, your likes, your clothes, your failures, or your successes. You are not the story others wrote for you. You are not the story you wrote to survive. You are the awareness behind the story, the still presence watching the movie of your life unfold. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. You are not the pain. You are the presence it passes through. You are not the fear, you are the faith it tries to hide. You are not your ego. You are not your wound. You are not your past. You are the divine energy expressing itself through this temporary costume of form. And once you remember this, not just intellectually, but spiritually, cellularly, everything shifts. You stop looking for validation. You stop playing roles. You stop performing for love. You stop carrying guilt like a cross on your back. You stop needing to be fixed because you realize you were never broken. Your healing does not begin when the world changes. It begins when your perception changes. When you stop seeing yourself as separate from the source of life and begin to live as if you are one with it. Because there is no place you can go where God is not. Not because God is everywhere, but because everywhere is in God. Because existence itself is God in motion, love in form, spirit in rhythm. And your soul is a thread in that vast, endless tapestry of being. And this means that your life is not random, your pain is not pointless, your existence is not small. It means that the breath you are taking right now is holy. The moment you are in right now is sacred. The body you inhabit is a temple of energy, vibrating with ancient intelligence. You don't need to wait to die to return to God. You only need to awaken to the fact that you never left. Heaven is not a location. Heaven is a level of awareness. And hell is not punishment. Hell is the illusion of separation. It is living as if you are alone, as if you are unloved, as if you are lost, but you are none of those things. You are found, you are held, you are guided, you are loved beyond comprehension, not because of what you do, but because of what you are. You are light wrapped in skin. You are infinity in motion. You are God, dreaming of being human for a little while. And when you awaken to this truth, forgiveness becomes easy because you recognize that the one you're forgiving is also the divine in disguise. Compassion becomes natural because every person you meet is you in another form. Love becomes unconditional because it's no longer a transaction, it's a transmission. And peace becomes your default because nothing can disturb the stillness of the soul that knows it is one with the all. So the next time you look in the mirror, don't just see a face, see the infinite gazing back at itself. The next time you feel alone, place your hand on your heart and feel the presence that has never left. The next time you pray, don't send your words into the sky. Listen for the answer rising from within. You are not trying to become divine. You are remembering that you already are. And this remembrance, this return, is the beginning of true freedom. You don't need to fight for what already belongs to you. You don't need to beg for what you already are. And you don't need to wait for someone else to awaken. First, you are the awakening. You are the permission slip. You are the spark that lights the fire of remembrance in others, just by being who you truly are. When you walk into a room fully grounded in your divine essence, you don't need to say a word. Your presence becomes the sermon. Your peace becomes the teaching. Your authenticity becomes the miracle. Because when you remember that God is not outside of you, you stop chasing and start radiating. You stop searching and start serving. You stop trying to become and you begin to be. You begin to live like the lotus rooted in the mud, but blooming in the light. You begin to live like the sun, not asking the world for permission to shine. You begin to live like the ocean, deep, powerful, and undisturbed by the surface waves. This is not about religion. This is about revelation. This is not about dogma. This is about direct experience. You don't need a middleman to access the divine. You only need stillness. You only need silence. You only need the courage to sit with yourself until the noise fades and the truth rises. And what is that truth? That you are not alone. You never were. That everything you've been searching for, love, peace, worth, wholeness, is already within you. That God is not a being in the sky. God is the being within all beings. The eternal I am that speaks through your breath, moves through your hands, sees through your eyes. When you hold a newborn child and feel your heart crack open with wonder, that's God. When you stand in nature and feel awe wash over you like a baptism, that's God. When you forgive someone who never said sorry and feel the chains break in your chest, that's God. When you sit in the silence of your own soul and feel the warmth of presence, that is God. God is not something you understand. God is something you remember. And every moment of your life has been guiding you back to that remembrance, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. Because pain is often the chisel that cracks the shell of illusion. Suffering is the wake-up call. Rock bottom is often the beginning of real clarity. We don't wake up because life is perfect. We wake up because we realize perfection was never the goal. Presence is. Peace is. Truth is. And truth is this: you are not separate. You were never cast out. You were never abandoned. You only forgot who you are, and now you are remembering. The spiritual path is not a journey to someplace new. It is the return to where you've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the story, beneath the roles. It is peeling back the layers of identity until only presence remains, until only love remains, until only God remains. And when you touch that space, when you live from that space, you become a vessel, a living temple, not a preacher of truth, but a presence of truth. And the world does not need more preachers. It needs more presence. It needs more people who have remembered who they are and live accordingly with gentleness, with power, with purpose, with peace. You were not put here to suffer through life hoping for a reward in the afterlife. You were not sent here to prove your worth or earn your salvation. You were born to express divinity in form, to create, to heal, to love, to serve, to awaken. You are the eyes through which the universe sees itself. You are the hands through which love touches the world. You are the voice through which truth sings. And the more you align with that awareness, the more your life begins to reflect it. Not because you manipulate circumstances, but because you change your vibrational point of origin. You stop operating from fear and start operating from faith. You stop reacting from ego and start responding from essence. You stop surviving and begin thriving. This is the alchemy of awakening. When you stop seeking God as something external and begin realizing that every breath is a prayer, every moment is sacred, and every being is divine, your life becomes a living meditation. You find the sacred in the ordinary. You hear the infinite in the silence. You see the face of God in the mirror, not out of arrogance, but out of awe. And this is what the world needs now, not more beliefs, but more beings. Not more ideas, but more embodiment. Not more preaching, but more presence. A planet full of awakened souls who no longer search for light outside, but choose to become the light inside. Because when you light up from within, you give others permission to remember their own flame. When you walk as divinity embodied, you heal without speaking. When you love from your center, you transform the atmosphere around you. And that love, that God energy, has no limits. It is not reserved for saints and sages. It is the birthright of every soul. It is the essence of every child, every stranger, every enemy. There is no one who is not divine. There is only consciousness that has forgotten itself. And when you meet someone who has forgotten, your role is not to judge, your role is to remind. To remind by your presence, to remind by your compassion, to remind by your peace. Because the moment you see God in another, you activate the God in them. The moment you forgive, you invite another into their own freedom. The moment you speak truth without fear, you become a lighthouse in the fog. And the fog is thick right now. The world is noisy. The world is afraid. The world has built a shrine to the ego and forgotten the altar of the soul. But even in this darkness, the light within has not dimmed. It only waits for your awareness to return. So come home to yourself. Come home to the truth that has always been waiting beneath your breath. You are not missing. You are not flawed. You are not behind. You are not unworthy. You are divine. You are radiant. You are the energy of God dancing in human form. You don't need to chase enlightenment. You need to embody what you already are. So breathe, not just to survive, but to remember. Breathe in your wholeness. Breathe in your innocence. Breathe in your connection to all that is. And when the world tries to distract you, return to this breath. Return to this moment. Return to the energy that beats your heart and births the stars, because that energy is you. You are the temple and the flame. You are the question and the answer. You are the seeker and the source. And when you live from this knowing, life becomes a sacred flow. Challenges become opportunities to deepen your truth. Loss becomes a portal into love. Conflict becomes a classroom for compassion. Every experience becomes a step in your return to the truth. The truth that God is not outside of you. God is not in the sky waiting for you to be perfect. God is not a judge watching you through a lens of sin. God is the breath inside your breath, the stillness behind your thoughts, the love that you feel when all the noise fades. You are not separate. You never were. You just forgot. And now you are remembering. And in that remembering, you are reborn. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the search loses its meaning, not because the search failed, but because the search was always a mirror leading inward. The maps you followed, the teachings you clung to, the gurus you revered, the rituals you performed, all of them were stepping stones, sacred, yes, but not destinations. They were never meant to lead you to something outside of you, but to bring you back to the holy stillness within. The silent sanctuary, where nothing is missing and no part of you is exiled. This moment, this breath, is your arrival. Not in time, but in truth. When you release the idea that you must become something more to be worthy of the divine, you enter the dimension of being. And being is not passive, being is not empty, being is a cosmic radiance. It is a living alignment. It is the holy reverence that comes when you stand in your center without effort, without masks, without needing to prove your light to a world that's forgotten its own. You don't become divine by reaching upward. You become divine by sinking inward. And as you do, you realize that stillness is not the absence of noise. It is the presence of God. It is the space from which all miracles arise, the field where form and formlessness meet. In that space, you remember that you are not here to master life like a test. You are here to merge with it like a dance, to move in rhythm with the intelligence that breathes stars into existence and still takes the time to open a flower. There is no arrogance in this knowing, only awe, only humility, only the peace that comes when you stop trying to contain the infinite within your mind and instead allow your heart to become its home. For the ego seeks to grasp, the soul seeks to surrender. The ego builds identity out of pain, out of story, out of past. The soul simply is unburdened, eternal, whole. And every time you choose presence over performance, truth over illusion, love over defense, you dissolve another layer of separation and step more fully into the light that has always been waiting. You don't need to heal yourself into worthiness. You only need to remember that the light you long for is not something to earn, it is something to uncover. And as you uncover it, something begins to shift, not just within you, but around you. The world starts responding differently. Not because the outer world changed, but because your inner signal did. Like a radio that finally tunes to the right frequency, you begin to hear a different song, a quieter song, a truer one. You begin to recognize guidance in what once felt random. You begin to feel supported in ways that defy logic. You begin to trust life, not because it always makes sense, but because you no longer need it to. You begin to understand that the energy that created this universe, the energy that shaped galaxies, composed the laws of nature, painted the skies with sunsets and orchestrated the tides, is not distant from you. It flows through you. It animates you. It breathes you. And when you live from this awareness, your actions become expressions of love instead of fear. Your relationships become altars of growth instead of battlegrounds of control. Your words become vessels of truth instead of weapons of validation. This is what it means to live as the soul and not as the mask. This is what it means to walk the earth as divinity incarnate. You no longer see others as threats or strangers, but as reflections, sacred echoes, each one offering you the chance to practice remembrance. And the more you remember, the more you soften. The more you soften, the more you heal. And the more you heal, the more others heal just by being in your field. This is the quiet revolution of awakened presence. It changes the world not through force, but through frequency. And this frequency is not loud, it's not desperate, it's not defensive, it's gentle, like the light that enters a room without knocking, like the wind that moves the trees without needing to be seen, like love that simply loves, without agenda, without demand, without needing to be returned. This is how the divine works, not as a ruler, but as a presence, not as a command, but as a current. And the more you surrender to this current, the more your life becomes a river instead of a struggle. Not without pain, not without challenge, but with an unshakable foundation of peace that whispers, even in the storm, you are not alone. The storm does not mean you are forsaken. The wound does not mean you are broken. The doubt does not mean you have failed. It means you are growing. It means the veil is thinning. It means you are being called to remember, again, not in concept, but in embodiment. Not just to know that God is within, but to live as though it were unmistakably true. To live as though the breath you take is divine intelligence entering your body. To live as though every act of kindness is a prayer in motion. To live as though your very presence is a sanctuary where others remember their light. This is not spiritual idealism. This is radical realism, to see beyond the illusion of fear and touch the deeper truth of love that holds it all. Because what is God, if not love itself? Not the fragile love that says, only if you earn it. Not the conditional love that keeps score. Not the fleeting love that changes with behavior, but the eternal, boundless, all-pervading love that simply is. The love that has no opposite. The love that includes every shadow. The love that redeems without punishment. The love that burns away the illusion of separation with a single glance. And you are here to be the mirror of that love. Not in perfection, but in presence. Not by trying to become it, but by removing everything that blocks it. Every time you let go of judgment, you make room for that love. Every time you forgive yourself, you open the window to that love. Every time you choose compassion over condemnation, you become a vessel for that love. Not just for others, but for yourself. Because you too are worthy of the grace you give so easily to others. You too are worthy of returning home to yourself, not someday, not when you're better, but now. Now, when you are still tangled in your questions. Now, when you are still healing your wounds. Now, when the light inside is a flicker instead of a flame, that flicker is enough. That breath is enough. That moment of truth is enough to begin again. And beginning again is the most spiritual act there is. Because every moment offers the possibility of awakening. Every moment is holy ground when you walk it with awareness. And every time you choose to remember, even for a second, that God is not outside of you, the veil thins a little more. Until one day, you stop looking for the divine and you simply become it. There is a sacred humility that descends upon the soul when it no longer needs to shine, not because it doubts its light, but because it has become the light. This is not a performance. This is not the ego's idea of enlightenment. This is the quiet authority of one who has stopped seeking approval and started walking in alignment. A person who no longer needs the world to recognize their divinity because they have already recognized it within. This is the true birth of power, not control, not domination, not force, but alignment. Power that flows without resistance, power that heals without effort, power that liberates without preaching, You do not need to argue with darkness. You only need to turn on the light. And the light within you does not flicker with the opinion of others. It does not waver in the face of rejection. It does not vanish when things fall apart, because it is not built on circumstance. It is built on truth, eternal truth, the kind that existed before your story began and will remain long after your story ends. And this is what ego can never understand, that it is not your job to become something more, but to unbecome all that is false. Not to gather more things, more achievements, more spiritual credentials, but to surrender, to shed, to simplify, to become so empty of illusion that only truth remains. The ego resists this. It clings, it calculates, it compares, it builds altars to its own identity. But no altar built by the ego can contain the presence of the divine. God is not a possession. God is not a trophy for the enlightened. God is not a point to be proven. God is the breath between your thoughts, the peace underneath your pain, the space that remains when all self-concepts dissolve. You find it not by becoming more, but by becoming still. And in that stillness, you begin to see clearly. You begin to see how much of your suffering came not from life itself, but from your resistance to it, from believing the lie that life was against you, that you were unworthy, that you had to earn love, prove worth, fight for peace. But peace was never a destination. It was always your nature. Love was never a reward. It was always your essence. And God was never out there. God was always the witness, the seer, the still presence within. As this truth anchors deeper, your relationship with life itself transforms. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what part of me is ready to be healed through this? You stop resisting discomfort and begin welcoming it as the doorway to a deeper awareness. You stop fearing loss and begin recognizing every ending as an initiation into expansion. Nothing is wasted when you see through the eyes of the soul. Even your heartbreak becomes holy. Even your failures become fuel. Even your loneliness becomes a sacred invitation, not to fill the void, but to become intimate with it, to rest in it, to realize that beneath the loneliness is longing, and beneath the longing is love, not the love that comes and goes, but the love that you are. You are not the absence looking for completion. You are the completeness rediscovering itself through this temporary form. And so you begin to live differently, not with the frantic pace of the mind, but with the graceful rhythm of the soul. You begin to trust in timing, to surrender to process, to move not from fear, but from deep inner resonance. You say no, not to reject, but to honor alignment. You say yes, not to please, but to follow joy. You walk away not to escape, but to return to yourself. And in doing so, you begin to see the world not as a battlefield, but as a reflection. Not as a place to conquer, but as a mirror to awaken you. Every interaction becomes a chance to remember. Every trigger becomes a chance to release. Every breath becomes a chance to return home. And what is home? Home is the place within you that needs no validation. Home is the truth that has no opposite. Home is not somewhere you arrive. Home is where you live when you are no longer pretending to be anything but what you are, a spark of the divine wrapped in human form, here for a blink of eternity to remember what cannot be forgotten. You are not here to suffer. You are here to wake up. You are here to love, not as a strategy, but as a state of being. You are here to touch the fabric of life with reverence, to speak with sincerity, to walk with integrity, to listen deeply, and to give freely from the well of your soul. And in doing so, you become what the world has forgotten, a living presence of the sacred. You become the prayer. You become the temple. You become the embodiment of what the scriptures tried to describe. Because the greatest scripture is not in a book. It is written in your being. It is etched in your stillness. It is spoken in your silence. And in that silence, you know not with the mind, but with the soul, that there is nothing left to seek. There is only this moment and the divine pulse that animates it. You are not becoming divine. You are remembering that you never stopped being it. And that remembering is enough to change everything. There is a moment, quiet, unannounced, when all seeking falls away, not because the world has changed, but because you have remembered what the world forgot. You no longer stand at the edge of the ocean asking it to show itself. You simply step in, you merge, you dissolve the illusion of separation and become one with the current. This is what it means to return to God, not to a skybound deity, but to the source that has always been flowing in your breath, rising in your intuition, beating in the very center of your chest. And in this return, you discover what cannot be taught, that love is not something you give, receive, or find. Love is what you are. You were not sent here to search for it. You were sent here to embody it. And when you embody love, not the fragile imitation born of fear and control, but the love that includes every part of you, even the broken places, you become a miracle in motion. You become the kind of presence that doesn't need to speak in order to teach. You simply are. And your being reminds others of what they've always been. You walk differently now, not in haste, but in grace. You listen differently now, not to answer, but to feel. You speak differently now, not to impress, but to align. You live not from a desperate desire to prove your worth, but from a quiet knowing that you are the breath of God in human form. There is nothing to defend. There is nothing to fix. There is only this presence unshaken, unconditioned, and untouched by the storms of the mind. You have not arrived at this place through perfection. You arrived through surrender, through the falling away of every illusion that told you God was separate from your breath, from your body, from your being. You are not here to rise above your humanity. You are here to bring divinity into it, into the chaos, into the relationships, into the heartbreak, the joy, the tension, the ordinary moment, because that is where God lives. Not just in the mountaintops and temples, but in the mundane, in the unseen, in the imperfect. And you are the sacred bridge. You are the place where heaven and earth meet. Not someday, now, in this breath, in this body, in this life. So stop waiting for a sign. You are the sign. Stop waiting for permission. You are the permission. Stop waiting for someone to save you. You are the remembering that saves the world. Not through might, not through noise, but through presence, through peace, through the quiet, unwavering embodiment of the truth that has no opposite, that God has never been outside, that God is not in the sky, that God is not in some distant realm waiting for your perfection. God is here. God is now. God is within your choices, within your silence, within the love you extend when no one is watching, within the courage to forgive when the world says hate, within the softening when your ego wants to harden, within the breath you take when you choose to return to the stillness that has always held you. You don't need to transcend the world. You need to infuse it with your light. Let the divine radiate through your laughter, through your tears, through your vulnerability and truth. Let it pour through your presence like a sacred current. Let it touch every room you enter, not because you're trying, but because you're finally being who you are. You are not a seeker anymore. You are a rememberer. And the memory is no longer distant. It is here. It is now. It is you. So walk gently, boldly, truthfully. Let your life be your prayer. Let your breath be your altar. Let your love be your message. And when the world forgets, and it will be the one who remembers. Remember that every person is carrying the same spark, even if they have buried it. Remember that every conflict is a call for love, not for war. Remember that your past is not a prison, but a portal. Remember that this moment, yes, this very one, is sacred. You are not here by accident. You are not made of mistakes. You are made of stars, of breath, of ancient light. And when you die, and you will not meet God. You will dissolve into God. You will return to what you never left. But until that day, let every step you take be a celebration of the truth you've remembered. That God is not outside. It's the energy inside. And it always has been. And it always will be. Now breathe. Smile. You are home. You are free. You are divine. There is nothing broken in you, nothing that needs repair. You are not a machine gone wrong or a puzzle with missing pieces. You are not a project that needs managing or a story that needs rewriting to suit someone else's narrative. You are not here to be fixed because you are not faulty. You are here to be freed. Freed from the illusion that you ever needed to be more than what you are in this sacred breathing moment. From the time we arrive on this earth, we are bombarded with subtle suggestions that we are incomplete, that we are somehow not enough, not yet, not quite, not ever, unless we strive, unless we earn, unless we prove. But the truth, the eternal truth is this: you arrived whole. You arrived divine, you arrived worthy, you arrived enough. What came later was conditioning. What came later were opinions. What came later were stories that others had written in their own pain and unknowingly passed on to you. But the soul beneath those stories, it has never changed. You see, the soul doesn't need fixing. It only longs to be remembered. It only longs to be released from the prison of your own forgetting. You are not your wounds. You are not your thoughts. You are not your past. You are the awareness beneath it, all spacious, still, unshaken, and eternal. You are the witness who sees it all but is bound by none of it. So why do we spend so much time trying to fix ourselves? Because we have believed the loudest voice, not the truest one. We have given our attention to the surface noise, the opinions of the world, the judgments of culture, the comparisons we've made, and in doing so, we have silenced the whisper of our inner knowing, that sacred voice that does not shout, that does not condemn, but gently reminds us, you were never meant to live like this. We don't need to become someone else to be free. We only need to remove what is not us. And the beautiful thing is, freedom does not require force. It requires surrender. Not a giving up, but a giving over. A letting go of the armor we built to survive in a world that taught us to fear being ourselves. The pain we carry is often not our own. It is the inherited fear of those who came before us. Their doubt, their scarcity, their trauma, their shame, passed on not because they were cruel, but because they were asleep. And now we have the choice not to fix what they gave us, but to release it. We were taught to seek wholeness in doing, in earning, and achieving, as if we were born empty and must spend our lives filling a void. But there is no void in the soul. Only the illusion of separation from the source that created you. When you return to that source, when you become still, when you breathe, when you listen, you begin to see with new eyes. You begin to remember that wholeness was never something to seek. It is something to return to, something to uncover, something that's been buried beneath layers of expectation, fear, and identity. Imagine a magnificent sculpture hidden beneath a block of stone. The sculptor does not add anything to the marble, he removes what is not the masterpiece. And so it is with your life. Healing is not about becoming something new. It's about shedding what you are not. And in that shedding, you find the freedom you've been chasing all along. There is no need to run anymore. There is no need to strive toward some imagined perfection. The soul does not evolve by force. It unfolds by grace, by stillness, by trust, by the deep inner knowing that nothing real can be threatened, that who you truly are cannot be damaged, that the self beneath all the noise, the timeless, formless, eternal self, does not need therapy, does not need improvement. It needs only recognition. And when you begin to see yourself through the eyes of the divine, you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And begin to ask, What do I need to let go of that's not mine? You begin to ask, what story am I still telling that's keeping me small? You begin to ask, whose approval am I still chasing, and why do I believe I need it? These are not questions to judge yourself, they are keys to your own prison. Because the only thing keeping you from freedom is the belief that you are not already free. You were conditioned to believe that your worth was tied to doing, but your worth is in your being. You were taught to hustle for love, but love is your nature. You were raised to believe peace is something to find, but peace is what happens when you stop running. The ego will tell you that you're not enough, that you must strive harder, perform better, prove your value, but the soul waits patiently for the day you turn inward and remember, you are not your ego. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not the role you play, the name you were given, the mask you wear. You are not your mistakes or your achievements. You are not what they said about you, and you are not what you said about yourself when you forgot who you were. You are the sky, not the weather. You are the ocean, not the waves. You are the light, not the lampshade. And when you recognize this, when you truly embody this, the need to fix yourself begins to fall away. You stop trying to polish your reflection and start honoring the radiance that's always been there. Freedom is not the absence of flaws, it's the absence of judgment. It's the end of resistance. It's the softening that happens when you meet yourself with compassion instead of criticism. When you hold your sadness like a child and say, you are safe with me. When you embrace your confusion without trying to solve it. When you allow your humanity without labeling it as failure. This is the paradox of awakening. The moment you stop trying to change yourself is the moment transformation begins. Because true change is not born from shame. It is born from love. When you finally see yourself clearly, not as damaged, but divine, you don't need to be fixed. You simply allow your true self to be seen, to be known, to be honored. And in that space, life begins to unfold in its own miraculous rhythm. There is a great stillness within you, deeper than your fear, deeper than your past. It is the stillness of your own divine essence, that sacred flame that was never extinguished, only covered. And when you sit in silence, when you breathe deeply, when you let go of the need to prove or protect or perform, that stillness becomes your teacher. It whispers the truth you've always known, that you are not here to become worthy. You are here to remember that you already are. The world may never affirm this truth for you. In fact, it often does the opposite. It celebrates effort, not essence. It rewards masks, not authenticity. But the soul doesn't care for applause. It longs for alignment. It longs for you to remember what it whispered when you were still a child, before the conditioning, before the comparison, before the pretending. That whisper said, you are already home. You are already whole. You are already free. But to hear it now, you must unlearn. You must unlearn the belief that healing comes from adding more and more books, more affirmations, more rituals, more effort. Sometimes healing is subtraction. Sometimes the medicine is silence. Sometimes the breakthrough is in the breakdown. And sometimes the most spiritual act is to stop trying and simply allow yourself to be exactly as you are, without resistance, without apology. This doesn't mean you won't grow. It means your growth will no longer be a frantic race to fix what you believe is broken. Instead, it becomes a gentle unfolding, a return to your true nature, the way a rose doesn't strive to bloom, but simply opens in the light. You were born to open. Not to earn the sun, but to reveal what has always been hidden beneath the armor of self-doubt and the weight of expectation. Look around at nature. The tree does not apologize for how it bends toward the light. The river does not question its twists. The mountain does not feel shame for its stillness. The moon does not ask permission to shine. And yet, you, the most miraculous creation of all, were told somewhere along the way that you must apologize for simply being who you are. That you must hide your tenderness, that your sensitivity is weakness, that your joy must be earned, your tears must be silenced, and your uniqueness must be diluted so others feel more comfortable. But you were never meant to be acceptable. You were meant to be authentic. And authenticity begins the moment you stop trying to be more and start allowing yourself to be enough. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you are, a divine expression of life itself. You do not need to fix your pain. You need to listen to it. Let it speak. Let it rise. Let it move through you like the tide. Don't dam it up with false positivity or drown it with distractions. Let it tell you where it hurts. Let it show you what it's still carrying. And then, not with judgment, but with compassion, place your hand over your heart and say, I see you. I hear you. I'm with you now. You've tried being hard on yourself. You've tried self-criticism and guilt and endless striving. Where did it get you? Tired, disconnected, afraid to slow down, afraid to stop, afraid to be still. But try love, try gentleness, try radical self-acceptance, not because you've earned it, but because your soul was never unworthy to begin with. It's easy to love yourself when you feel successful, inspired, enlightened. But freedom is found when you can love yourself in the confusion, in the darkness, in the mess. The soul doesn't reject your mess. It moves through it like light through shadow. It doesn't say, you should be better by now. It says, welcome, you're safe here. Let's go deeper. And when you go deeper, you'll find the pain wasn't asking for punishment, it was asking for presence. It wasn't a sign that you are broken. It was a sign that something old is ready to be released. You are not your trauma. You are the space that witnessed it. You are not your depression. You are the awareness that feels it. You are not your anxiety. You are the stillness beneath it. And when you stop identifying with the waves and remember you are the ocean, everything changes. Not because your circumstances change overnight, but because you stop resisting what is, and in doing so, you become truly free. You do not have to pretend anymore. You do not have to force joy. You do not have to chase perfection. You are allowed to be exactly where you are, with every contradiction, every question unanswered. Enlightenment is not the absence of humanity, it is the embrace of it. The fully awakened soul does not live above the storm, it knows how to dance in the rain. So stop asking, what do I need to fix in me? And begin asking, what do I need to love in me? Stop trying to escape your feelings and instead invite them to tea. They have wisdom. They have stories. They have roots that trace back generations. You don't need to analyze every detail. You don't need to solve every wound. You need only to stay with it, breathe through it, trust the process of release, not as a technique, but as a sacred return to self. Because the self, the real self, the one untouched by the world, has never been damaged. It is not a personality. It is not an identity. It is not a role. It is the pure light of presence. It is the observer. It is the stillness beneath all doing. And when you sit in that stillness long enough, when you become aware of the awareness itself, healing ceases to be a goal and becomes a natural byproduct of returning to truth. You are already that which you seek. Not someday, not if, not once you've read one more book or healed one more wound. Right now, in this breath, in this moment, as you are, the only veil is the thought that you are not. Spiritual freedom is not about becoming better, it's about becoming real. Not in the eyes of others, but in your own. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone else to see you and you finally see yourself. The moment you stop waiting for permission and you grant it to yourself. The moment you stop running from your past and realize that every step, even the painful ones, were part of your unfolding. Nothing has been wasted, not your detours, not your heartbreak, not your silence, not your confusion. Even your regrets have led you here to the edge of awakening, to the doorway of truth. And now you must decide, will you keep trying to fix yourself into worthiness, or will you lay down your tools and simply return to your divine essence? Because freedom begins when you no longer believe that your value is negotiable. When you stop asking the world to validate what was already written in the stars the day you were born, You were not made to be perfect. You were made to be real. And in your realness, you radiate more light than any mask ever could. The healing you seek is not in becoming someone else. It's in unbecoming everything you are not. Every belief that says you're too much or not enough. Every lie that says you must earn love. Every inherited shame that says your emotions are inconvenient. Every label that was never yours to wear. Let them fall away. Let them burn in the fire of your awareness. And let what's left, the raw, tender, powerful truth of who you are, stand tall in its sacredness. Because the truth is, you don't need to be fixed. You never did. You only need to stop believing the thought that says you do. The illusion that you need fixing is born from comparison. You measured yourself against someone else's path, someone else's timeline, someone else's rules. But the soul doesn't compare, it knows. It knows the perfection of your own journey. It knows that the seasons of your life do not follow a clock on the wall or a calendar in a planner. They follow the rhythm of the cosmos, the divine choreography of unfolding. Your winter is not your punishment. It is your preparation. Your delay is not your denial. It is your deepening. And your breakdown is not your end. It is your initiation. You were never behind. You were becoming. You were never off track. You were being rerouted. You were never late. You were ripening. And all this time you thought life was punishing you when it was actually preparing you to carry your light with humility, to carry your freedom with reverence, to carry your voice with truth. There is something in you that has never been touched by shame, something in you that has never forgotten your original light. And if you sit with yourself in silence, if you listen deeply without trying to solve, that something will rise. And it will not be loud. It will be still. Like the hush of early dawn before the world wakes. Like the sacred pause between the in-breath and the out-breath. That stillness is your truth. That stillness is yourself. And it doesn't need healing. It needs space. You do not become more valuable by becoming more palatable. You do not become more worthy by becoming more agreeable. You do not become more loved by becoming less you. The moment you sacrifice your truth for someone else's comfort, you lose the very freedom your soul came here to embody. You were not born to fit in. You were born to awaken. To show others what is possible when a human being stops trying to fix themselves and starts trusting the perfection of their own becoming. And yes, it can be messy, but freedom is not clean. It is raw, it is vulnerable, it is beautifully human. And in your most human moments, your tears, your fears, your quiet longings, the light of your divinity shines the brightest. It says, even this belongs. Even this is sacred. Even this is part of the unfolding. Let go of the belief that your pain disqualifies you. It qualifies you. It softens your heart, humbles your mind, cracks the shell of the ego so the soul can pour through. Do not hide it. Do not bury it under spiritual bypassing or intellectual armor. Bring it into the light. Hold it in your hands like a sacred relic. Let it teach you. Let it open you. Let it remind you that even the darkest night holds a purpose you may not yet understand. The caterpillar doesn't understand the chrysalis. It only knows stillness. It only knows the surrender of no longer crawling. It only knows the silence that precedes transformation. And so it is with your journey. You may not understand why it feels so heavy. You may not see the wings forming beneath your skin, but one day you will break through what once confined you. One day you will fly, not because you fixed yourself, but because you remembered yourself. And that is the great paradox. The more you try to change yourself from a place of rejection, the more you suffer. But the moment you embrace yourself fully in the raw, the real, the incomplete, something miraculous happens. You begin to heal, not by force, but by love. You begin to transform, not by effort, but by grace. You begin to rise, not because you climbed a ladder of self-improvement, but because you laid down the burden of pretending and let yourself be carried by truth. You don't need a new identity. You don't need to perform your healing. You don't need to prove your progress. You only need to breathe, to pause, to return. And in that return, to whisper softly to yourself, I am here, I am whole, I am free. Your freedom was never lost. It was only forgotten, covered over by the noise of the world, hidden beneath layers of conditioning and survival. But the truth cannot be erased. It can only be ignored. And the moment you turn toward it, the moment you trust that whisper more than the scream of fear, the veil lifts. Not all at once, sometimes gently, sometimes painfully, but always perfectly timed. You have tried being everything you thought you needed to be. Now try being nothing but who you are. You have tried controlling every outcome. Now try trusting the mystery. You have tried running. Now try resting. You have tried earning. Now try receiving. And see what happens when you no longer demand anything from life except to show up with an open heart. You are not your defense mechanisms. You are not your coping patterns. You are not your shadows. You are the one who is aware of them. And awareness is healing. It does not condemn. It does not fix. It simply sees. And in seeing without judgment, the very patterns that once held you captive begin to dissolve, not because you fought them, but because you loved yourself through them. So many spend their lives chasing enlightenment as if it were some peak to reach, some badge to wear. But true awakening is so simple. It's the moment you sit down, exhale, and realize, I am okay. I am enough. I don't have to become anything other than this. That is what the great mystics spoke of. That is what freedom feels like. Not a constant high, not a state of perfection, but a profound peace with what is. A deep yes to your own aliveness. The soul doesn't need to be impressive. It doesn't care how many people approve of you. It only cares if you approve of you. If you can look in the mirror and not flinch, if you can stand in your truth without shrinking, if you can walk into the world no longer asking, am I enough? But instead declaring, I am. And when you live from that place, something extraordinary happens. You begin to attract people who recognize your truth, not because you perform for them, but because your energy resonates with their soul. You begin to draw in experiences that match your authenticity, not because you manipulated them, but because life mirrors back what you believe. And the more you embody your own freedom, the more you become a permission slip for others to do the same. You don't need to be fixed, just freed. Freed from old identities, freed from generational wounds, freed from expectations that were never yours, freed from the lie that says you must be anyone other than who you already are. The healing is in the allowing, the freedom is in the remembering, the awakening is in the surrender. So pause right now, breathe. Feel your heart beating. That is not brokenness. That is life, that is love, that is divinity pulsing through you. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to fight for it. You are it. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. There is only the forgetting and the sacred, glorious, unstoppable journey of remembering. And so we return not to where we began, but to the place within that never moved. You may have searched in books and rituals and gurus and systems. You may have traveled miles, spent years, and emptied your heart looking for the key to wholeness. But the key was never far. It was always within. Not in the striving, but in the surrender. Not in the fixing, but in the releasing. Let it be known, the work is not to fix yourself. The work is to stop abandoning yourself, to stop betraying your truth for the comfort of others, to stop dimming your light to fit the mold of the fearful, to stop apologizing for existing. Your freedom does not come through perfecting your flaws. It comes through honoring your wholeness, even in the presence of those flaws. Because wholeness isn't about being flawless. It's about being true. The wound you thought disqualified you, it made you a healer. The heartbreak you thought was the end, it was a portal. The mistake you thought would define you, it was the invitation to forgive, to rise, to soften into your sacred humanness. And the shame you've carried for years, It was never yours to hold. You can lay it down now. You are safe to be seen. You are safe to be known. You are safe to be loved, not for who you could be, but for who you already are. Can you feel it? The softening in your chest, the quiet recognition in your belly, the sacred breath returning to your body. That is you coming home. That is you remembering. That is you no longer rushing, no longer fighting, no longer trying to fix what was never broken. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a mystery to be lived. You are a sacred unfolding, not a final product. There is nothing final about you. You are ongoing, infinite, evolving, yet never incomplete. The seed does not apologize for not being the tree. The moon does not shrink because it is not yet full, neither should you. Because freedom is not something you arrive at. It is something you allow. It is not a mountaintop you must climb. It is a truth you must remember. The prison was never made of steel. It was made of thoughts, of stories, of beliefs passed down by the afraid, the ashamed, the asleep. And now you awaken. Awakening is not about transcending your humanity. It's about embracing it. It's about seeing that your fear, your sadness, your longing, they are not signs of failure. They are signs of aliveness. Your sensitivity is not a burden, it is your gift. Your longing is not your weakness, it is your guidance. Your emotions are not liabilities, they are invitations to deepen. And when you stop resisting them, when you stop labeling your inner experience as wrong or broken or messy, you begin to live as you were always meant to, free, fluid, whole. There is such power in your softness, such beauty in your vulnerability, such truth in your tenderness. You do not have to harden to survive. You do not have to toughen up to be respected. You do not have to edit your soul for the approval of a world still asleep to its own divinity. Be soft, be open, be real. That is where your strength lives. That is where your peace is born. Forgive yourself, not because you were wrong, but because you believed you were unworthy. Forgive those who hurt you, not because they were right, but because they too forgot who they were. And in forgiveness, find your wings, not because you want to fly above life, but because you are finally light enough to walk through it with grace. The path forward is not paved in perfection. It is paved in presence, in allowing, in radical honesty, in compassion for your younger self, in tenderness toward the one inside you who tried so hard to be lovable. That one is not your enemy. That one is not your flaw. That one is your beginning. And now you are your return. Return to your body, return to your breath, return to the space between thoughts where truth still lives. Return to the moment again and again until the moment becomes your home. That's where freedom waits. Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. Always now. Let them misunderstand you. Let them label you. Let them doubt your path. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to embody it, to walk it, to live so deeply in your truth that others remember their own by the way you move through the world. And no, you will not always get it right. You will falter. You will forget. You will fall into the old stories now and then. But that is not failure. That is the rhythm of remembering. That is the spiral dance of awakening. Each time deeper. Each time softer. Each time freer. So breathe. Feel this moment. Not with your mind, with your being. Can you see? There is nothing to fix. There is only something to feel, something to remember, something to love. And that something is you, whole, sacred, free.